If you were shopping for a new small car in 1986, you were spoilt for choice in this country. You had the fast, the fun, the stylish and the practical. You could have gone for a Fiat Uno, a Peugeot 205, Ford Fiesta or a Vauxhall even. Or you could have gone for pure practicality and chosen a Nissan Micra. This is a 998cc Nissan Micra Colette, which I think is either Japanese for very basic or extremely beige interior. Well, apart from that little creak, this car is like new. It has an astonishing 25,000 miles on the clock, or 25,382 to be precise. It is astonishing. I've never seen so much perfect condition caramel brown plastic. That is the overriding tone in here. We have these kind of zigzag pattern velour seats, which are like new. We have our perfect condition brown carpet, complete with a perfect, well, not far off perfect, looks fairly new, Nissan original floor mat. In fact, the only two bits of wear I can see in this car are some slightly odd nicking in the corner of this. I wonder if someone sat here with, I don't know, like a metal knee. Did someone sit cross-legged there with heels on or something, or put a dog down here that scratched against? I don't know. I don't know the car's history, unfortunately, so all I can say it was used very little. But the dashboard itself is primarily this kind of caramel brown. Then you have this darker instrument binnacle, which is the same shade as the steering wheel, with its little hooter. How sweet. Because this is the Colette version, I'm not quite sure what extras we get. We have a heated rear window, and we have one of the most fun little rear wash wipe buttons I've ever seen. It's a two-way rocker switch. Push to the right and it's a spring-loaded push for the washer. Push to the left and your wiper is on. Push to the left again, it's a spring-loaded button for a quick wipe. How much fun is that? Now, because this is a Japanese car of the 80s, our instrument stalks are the wrong way round. I have my indicators on the right, which actually kind of makes sense if you're used to driving 70s cars, with the headlight switch on the end, and although that plastic is kind of sun faded slightly, it still clicks and feels like a new car. On the left we've got our wiper, and bear in mind this is a fairly basic car. It's got intermittent wipes, low wipes and speed wipes and pull for wash, so you know you're not exactly suffering it completely. I have a rear fog light as well, which I think is probably mandated by law rather than because Nissan were feeling generous. And in the centre console, this kind of hanging area, which is quite interesting, makes the whole car feel very airy indeed, because there's no centre console here filling in space and taking foot or leg room. You've got your lighter, obviously, it's the 80s, which is handy for running sat-navs and things in the present day, charging your phone now. We have the standard generic every Japanese car from the 80s panel with fan speed, recirculate, fresh, air direction and hot and cold. This is the same as an MR2, same as a Nissan Maxima, same as everything from Japan back then. And below that, oh wow, we have a real blast from the past. We have the original long wave, medium wave radio cassette, and interestingly, the bottom row of numbers for the dial is UKW, UK wave. Well, we know that as FM, so I don't know why it's called UKW, but that is clearly tuned to Radio 2 at the moment. Two groups of people bought the Nissan Micra: the elderly for their last car that didn't want any trouble with, and driving schools. And I can't really pass off as a 17-year-old very easily, so I'm going to go for an old man today. So that's hence the flat cap. So I'm running out of things to describe to you, because we have a weirdly positioned courtesy light off centre next to the mirror. You know, this is quite a cute little thing. We have single hinged sun visors, which mean you can rotate them to the side if the sun's coming down on a long straight road, which is great because normally you have to unclip it from there. But yeah, they've saved a few pennies by only putting the one and no actual clip on there. No mirror on the passenger side because Colette does not get a mirror. On the door itself, no door bins. In fact, there's no storage anywhere apart from the actual glove box, which is tiny. I mean, barely big enough for a pair of gloves. The tea shelf slopes alarmingly away from you, so although your pens may roll to the back of it, your tea will also slop into the back. Disappointing. Yeah, the doors are literally 4 items on there. You have your door handle, obviously. You have a manual window winder, door pull because you've got to shut the thing, and a little vent, which I don't know why you've got a vent in the door. And it's got quite a funky mid-80s crosshatch graph paper pattern theme going on the back of the instruments, and also behind the heating ventilation controls. That little very 80s, you can imagine like a pulsing line graph thing going on, because that's what happened a lot in the 80s. I'll find a graphic of that to go with that, I'm sure. Don't worry, you'll know what I mean. Anyway, I've run out of stuff to say in the front. I'll have a look in the back and then we'll take it for a drive. Well, the back of the car is cosy if practical. With the seat up, there's just enough room for my knees. If I was a smaller person, like a child, for example, let's move that forward again so you can see me, this wouldn't be too bad. It'd be quite acceptable, really. You've got big windows, so you're not going to get car sick, and you've got seat belts from the factory, which is extremely good in a 1986 car. That wasn't standard practice by any means. Though I am slightly disappointed, these seat belts are regular black, not Colette caramel. If you're going to start with a beige theme, follow it through. Amenities wise, if you're a backseat passenger, you have an ashtray and the use of the front seat passenger's small cubby hole behind the handbrake, and that is basically it. You do not have a courtesy light, you do not have a window winder, or an opening window at all for that matter. No, you're bereft of toys. You'll need to bring your own entertainment if you're travelling in the back of here. I will now leave the back of here. I've got to mention this boot, not because it's immense or commodious in some special way, or even because of these incredible, mad, huge sticky out number plate lights. I don't know how thick they're expecting number plates to be in the UK, or these incredible original number plates, which are kind of three-dimensional stick-on letters from the original Wadhurst dealer, which I think is where the car was sold new. And it's not come far as we're in Surrey today, but because of the, frankly, astonishing condition. I've never seen a vinyl lined boot so clean and shiny. It looks like it's never had more than a packet of digestives in here its entire life. It's immaculate. And the spare tyre underneath and toolkit, okay, it's a bit grubby, but I think it's just 30 years of dirt rather than actual dust. So I've put dust on it, I feel bad now. Almost goes without saying, it's flat metal underneath there. There's nothing to put your hand in and pull it down. You do have to get your hand dirty, and it's actually quite hard to get your fingers under there to grip it when you're lifting it. The only thing really worn, as I said, was the top of this gear knob, and so I don't actually know where reverse is because I've driven everywhere forward so far. I think it's going to be either top left, which I think, or bottom right. Yeah, bottom right it is. Hooray! Now, as I said, one of the reasons people bought cars like this is because they're almost certainly favouring substance over style. So I've got to put the fan on, it's very warm. And even having sat on the dealer's forecourt for a week with no one moving it, today, put the key in, it fired instantly, which is as you'd expect. I'm going to apologise now for the shaky cam because I came out today and everything has gone wrong. I've been stuck in traffic. The car I was meant to be driving today sold before I got there. So I'm in the car, which I didn't even know I was there until a couple of hours ago. And so everything is going wrong, and I left my good camera mount in the car, so I've attached the Fuji to a GoPro mount, hence the slight wobble you're seeing today. Sorry. I'll use lots of B-roll instead and try and avoid the seasick motions. I will just quickly say that this car is actually for sale right now at Sussex Classics in Crawley down in Surrey, and this immaculate 25,000 mile car, which they very generously lent me today, is for sale for £1,995 if you fancy a mint, and I mean mint, Nissan Micra K10, and why wouldn't you? My brief association with this Micra Colette is throwing up all manner of exciting discoveries. First of all, for a few minutes I thought the seats didn't actually recline. Actually, it turns out that the lever that allows you to flip the seat forward, you pull the other way and you can actually move the seat back a little bit, which makes it more comfortable, because that bolt upright position isn't the best. It does have headrests, which is quite exciting for a 1980s, well, city car. Not city, it's pre-city car, isn't it? It's just a compact or a subcompact, I think the classification would be. Obviously keep fit windows. I was not expecting, however, keep fit mirrors of the variety where you lean out and push it with your finger. Now, production of the K10 Micra began in December 1982 for the Japanese market. It came to Europe in June 1983 and Canada in 1984. So it really was a world car. Production carried on all the way until 1992, so that's a 10-year production run of the thing. It replaced the very popular Nissan Cherry, although the name did live on in the Cherry Europe, which is also the Alfa Arna, which is a fascinating car and an amazing, I'm not going to say a mistake, but it was a bizarre piece of car history or motoring history. When Alfa Romeo and Nissan both wanted a slice of what the other company could offer, and in fact both took a slice of what they already had and left what they wanted on the table. I will bring one of those to you at some point because that's an amazing vehicle. Well, that reputation for reliability was incredibly well founded, and it did well with buyers because at its peak in 1989 this model sold 50,000 units. Around that time there was a survey of reliability of 4-year-old vehicles, and the K10 Micra, this car, got an astonishing 7.5 breakdowns per 1,000 vehicles. Compare that to the Fiat Uno, which got 20.7. You can see why buyers who valued reliability and quality of build over anything else would have flocked to a car like this. Now, speaking of the Fiat, there is an anecdotal story that this design was originally going to be the replacement for the Fiat 127, but Fiat went with the Giugiaro designed Uno instead, and so this went to Nissan, and I'm not quite sure how that would have worked or why. As I say, it's anecdotal, I can't verify. If you've heard that story and know it to be true, let me know. If you know it's absolute nonsense, then let me know as well, because I'll be fascinated to hear that. And also, if it was going to be a Fiat design, how come Nissan designed it? Didn't they design it in-house? It looks extremely Nissan-y, so I don't know, maybe the Arna project from earlier, I don't know, can't be right. Anywho, when this car first went on sale, it was around the time that Datsun was rebranding as Nissan. So early cars were actually badged Datsun Micra, and then as they transitioned more, it became Datsun Nissan Micra or Nissan Datsun Micra. And by the time this car was made, it was just purely a Nissan, and it says it literally everywhere, on the foot mats, on the wheel center hubs and the front and back. It's just Nissan branding literally everywhere. You cannot forget it's a Nissan at all, no matter how hard you try. Not that you'd want to, it's a good car. I'm not saying you should forget it. Well, what's it like on the road, I hear you shouting, because I've not even mentioned that. And that is the thing, it is really, I think the best way to describe this car is inoffensive. It's quietly charming, and even if you don't like it, it can't actually offend you. Nothing to seriously dislike about it. And apart from maybe having to use a key to open the boot, that's quite irritating. There's so many charming 80s things like the pull-up aerial and the manual windows and all that kind of stuff. The acres of beige. How can you not like this much beige? All of the beige is here. If you ever wondered what happened to all of the beige that used to be in the world, it's here in this car. It's not fast. It's a 998cc engine which makes 49 horsepower, so it's no ball of fire. It was actually an engine developed specifically for this. This body shell was a 630 kilo body shell at launch, so extremely light. And so they designed the new all aluminium single overhead camshaft engine to run with this body and be, efficient and good miles per gallon and all the rest of it. Every control in this car is just light and easy and well placed. It's a car you can kind of drive almost without thinking about it. The steering is light and it's very precise. The pedals are light. Even the clutch is very light. It's designed so that a learner can drive it if it's their first go, and it'll be forgiving and let them off little kind of stutters and things. An elderly person, if it's their last car, can drive it if they're sort of a little bit weaker in their legs and things. The visibility is very good because it's got a large glass area and thin A and B posts and C posts. You've got great all-round visibility. Big mirror here, actually, surprisingly large. The gear shift is it is a 4-speed. There was a 4-speed, a 5-speed, and an auto. But the auto is only available with a slightly more powerful version of the engine, I guess because of power sappage from the automatic transmission. Safety-wise, I actually don't know how good these things are. I mean, it's got seatbelts all round. Crash testing was kind of developing as an art and a science in the mid-80s or early 80s, so I guess this thing won't be too dangerous. That little engine just buzzes away quietly. I mean, quiet enough that it kind of just hums, just got a high-pitched little note to it. Never really gets a deep growl. It's just always just a happy little buzzing bee. To be honest, the blower fan on setting 1 is almost as loud as the engine itself. It's not obtrusive at all. With early versions of the car, back in sort of the 82-83 period, when they were going for that 630 kilo target, some cars had very minimal sound insulation to try and keep the weight down, so they are louder to drive in. I'm not actually sure what the top speed is. I'll be honest, I came out today expecting to drive 2 different cars from this, and I didn't drive either of them. I drove this instead, so my usual fairly extensive research has slightly let me down, and all I can say is the speedo goes to 100, so it's going to be about 85 for a top end speed on this thing. I'll flash it in a picture below. In many ways, this is a lot like that green Metro I drove a couple of weeks ago, in that it's the kind of car you'd forgotten, and when it was new you might have taken the mick out of a bit for being it's only a ... insert basic car here. But the fact is, it's not a bad car at all. It drives well, it drives easily, it's pleasant and refreshing. It's got no driver aids, there's no ABS, no power steering. Obviously you've got a servo assisted brakes, but that's literally it. So the car is as good as you are, basically. Wow, yeah. And because this is a driving school car, I'm now going to do a reverse around a corner. Oh, there you go. I have now stopped 18 inches parallel from the curb. That's what this car's built for. Equipment-wise, it is half decent. It's got the FM radio, or UKW radio. It's got an auto choke. You can see the blanking plate where the choke would have been on previous generations. But beyond that, you are kind of limited. I mean, the only exciting extra I've found is that there's a pull ring on the back of the seat so the rear passengers can get out and move the seat forward. I don't have anything like a Doug DeMuro Doug score on how accurate and great the car is. There's no weekend score. It's more just the would I buy it test, and that's just a yes, no, maybe. And given the choice of, well, this Fiesta, a Metro even, I don't know. I like a lot about it. I like the ease of use. I like how practical it is, how simple and how reliable it is. I mean, this car is never really going to go wrong. Just keep on changing the oil, servicing it when it's due. You're never going to have an issue. This car will soldier on regardless. Unlike maybe, I don't know, a Metro or a Fiat Uno, which I love a Fiat Uno, but let's be realistic, something might break. This won't break. The plastics in the dashboard, even though this is a multi-part dashboard, it's absolutely rock solid. You know this isn't going to creak. Nothing rattles on this car. I like it a lot, but is it exciting enough? Or does its retro charm outweigh what would perhaps be the blandness of its original design? Bland is a hard word. I don't mean bland, I mean practical. The practicality of its original design. I don't know, this is going to fall into the maybe category. I like it a lot. I love the retro styling of it now. That's grown on me over the last 30 years. But I didn't love them when they were new. And so, does that make me a hypocrite for liking it now that it's an old car? I'm liking it just because it's old and different? I don't know. I do like it. I do like it a lot. I enjoy driving a car like this with just you and the car, no interruptions from the electronics cutting in to say you're doing it wrong. I like a manual gearbox. This is a good manual gearbox, so that's a nice thing. Considering it's only a small compact car, they've given it a great gearbox. That's a really nice bit of engineering. I admire the engineering of this car. So yeah, it's heavily in the maybe, rather than the wow, I must go and buy it. In the Metro the other day, I was sorely tempted to put a couple of £100 on the eBay auction just to see where it went. I didn't, obviously, otherwise I would be driving a Metro right now. Tell me what you think. Would you roll in a K10 Micra these days? Is it cool enough for you then? Would you need to lower it and stick it on banded steels before it became an option for you? Tell me what you think. Stick it in the comments below. Thanks for watching and sticking with the video despite the shaky cam. If you liked it, please hit like. If you haven't hit subscribe already, then please do consider hitting that button down there, because it really helps the channel out. If you didn't like it, well, as usual, frankly, I'm astounded you've got this far through the video enough to tell me about it. And I couldn't spend long talking about the car outside either, because there was summer holiday children and some kind of massive tractor next to the car park as well, which is why I got in the car very quickly, and now I'm sweating like crazy because my word, it's warm today. It must be at least 19 degrees centigrade. It's pleasant, that's the word I was looking for. This is a pleasant car to drive. It's unoffensive, pleasant. But hey, I'll see you next time when I've got the proper camera mount on the camera. Oh, that was a dumb move to forget that, sorry.